Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's so wonderful to see you all today. And I just really would like to say again, thank you so much for coming and joining me in this challenge and for trusting me to support you along the way. This is a powerful journey that will start to show you so much change. And it's how you embrace it that really, really makes all the difference. And as I look at myself in this screen, you see even little things like this are quite big because I can see my glasses look slightly askew. It's a thing. My nose is slightly askew and it's only littles. So we have to live with these things. And I'm sure you have some of these issues as well. So I have my notes just because I'd like to try and keep on track. I have an audio that I'd like to read to you later. And I will actually be gifting that to you today along with your workbook. And that will be yours to keep, your access to keep. So make sure that you have it bookmarked because it will be something that will help you, especially when you want to sit and do this work. And you may feel that you want to do this a few times after the actual challenge. You may find that it is actually a really worthwhile, regular little journey to do. And I couldn't be more pleased if you do actually take it on board as a habit to help you grow. Because everything you're doing will help to soothe some of the experiences that you've been having that you couldn't quite put your finger on the why. Why is it feeling like that? Why do I feel like that? Why can't I shift it? You've done really meaningful internal work right now up to this moment. It may not feel it, but it is. It's big work. Some of you may already have found clarity. Some of you might be feeling, my words aren't coming out today, feeling slightly more uncertain. And some of you are just going to be very quietly settled. And all of these things are normal because we're all unique human beings. And everything you're doing is about orientation. It's not about decision making. It's about recentering, coming back to your core, your inner you, and strengthening that place. Everything that we're doing is about shifting where we are, exploring, and then integrating. Sometimes we do it without even realizing. We do it unconsciously because that's the very nature of how our brains work. They work in an unconscious fashion. 95% of everything that goes on here is an unconscious motion because we don't actively choose to do that. Active choice is me looking at you now and speaking to you now. But 95% of what goes on in here is all unconscious. It allows our heart to pump, our blood to flow around our body, our breathing to work, our muscles to work, our senses to work. And all of those automated processes that we have going on in our body are all sitting in our unconscious mind. And so already you are gaining that insight into how the unconscious mind is so powerful. Because, if those parts of your body, all those elements that bring you together as a human being didn't work, then you'd be in a very poor place. So think about the correlation now, and it's something I touched on yesterday, between health and good emotional health. Physical health is very much ruled by how our unconscious mind works. Because if our unconscious mind is gathering bits of information that are not healthy for us, there's not a lot of space for the good, healthy stuff to work. So there's a bit of a tug going on between those two parts of us. And this is what happens with our values. The good parts want to work, but the not so happy, uncomfortable parts also want to work. And if we are not emotionally comfortable within ourselves, the not so happy will often play up and be more prevalent. Whereas the loving, thoughtful, kind part of us, who wants to enjoy and wants to play, feels repressed. And this is very much how all of our system works. When I learned all of this, it was such a revelation to really understand, because it made so much sense to me. I could never really understand before why, when a GP would say to you, well, you've got to go and see a man about your bones, and you've got to go and see another man about your skin, and you've got to go and see another person about your blood. Not once did they ever mention the mind. And I never did understand that, because to me, the body's a whole thing. Our brain is inside our skull, it's under our skin, it's attached to every part of us through nerves and various other parts that are all attached. So it made sense to me that all of these parts work together. So this is the place to learn new. This is the place to jump in and embrace who you are, embrace your unconscious mind, and embrace your physical being with the love that it deserves. And as we work through the day, I want you to be more aware of how powerful values are. And I am going to share with you a beautiful personal values image that I found. And it really spoke to me. Let me do that now. And as you can see, we have all these different parts of who we are. The part that chooses freedom, creativity, growth, stability, courage. Who doesn't want a bit of courage? Exploration, achievement, integrity. And it goes on. Enjoyment of life, love, influence, belonging, connection, wisdom, diversity, and acceptance. And what I really loved about this, and again, I'll make sure you have this in your workbooks, is that here it tells you about honoring that value. So freedom brings flexibility and autonomy into your life. Conversely, if that element of you is not comfortable and is not happy, there's a fear of making important commitments. And that fear can really stifle your values. And let's look here, stability. And this is something that you will all recognize whilst you're experiencing alienation and estrangement in your lives. Stability. Seeking reliable commitments, support systems, and backup plans. Being intolerant is the converse of change and narrow-mindedness. And stability is something we don't have a lot of in our personal relationships with family members, when we are experiencing estrangement and alienation. And so what it does is it does the archetypal pulling of the rug. That thing that really makes us feel uncomfortable, really makes the ground move beneath our feet, but not in a very comfortable way. Down here, love, this is another one that is tested profoundly. When you're giving love, you give it honestly. You don't put labels of expectation. You just willingly give. But you can become really cynical when others don't do that back to you. And they don't give in the way that you thought they had before. So when somebody is being withheld and that loving relationship is cut off, where do you put that love? How do you deal with those emotions? Because it's big stuff. All of your values here become tested right down to the core of who you are. Because if you're giving love without expectation, and you're giving it with value as you feel you are, however that is, whether it's making a cake, repairing a hem on a pair of trousers or a skirt or a dress, making sure the washing is all beautifully folded and comfortable so that they're not, having creases that are making them uncomfortable. All of these little things we do willingly without considering any kind of rhetoric behind it. So when these things are cut off and there is no reciprocation, it's a little bit like being, actually, I know, a cycle track. When you see them doing the cycling in the indoor arenas and the bikes are whizzing round and round and round, and they seemingly can't stop. They will, but they're on an angle. And they are going at such super speeds that you don't know how they can stop. And that is one of those feelings that we have when we are stuck in a cycle of not knowing how to process an emotion that we took for granted before, a value that we took for granted before. It's a very important thing to consider and vital to see where we are in that place so that we can understand how we can settle and calm those values and bring back the strength that we need for the ones to live well and healthily. Looking here, wisdom, making space for lifelong learning and reflection. And what's the converse? Antisocial tendencies, difficulty in maintaining relationships. This is where I've been pushed from this place, struggling with the relationships, into a place of growth, into a place of learning, into a place of being the person I am and not that wounded, hurting person that I was. And so sometimes that place that we've been in can actually push us from the negative to the positive. And part of my journey has been about realizing that I didn't know who I was when I met my ex-husband when I was 20 years old. The real me never had a chance to come out because the real me started to conform to fit my ex-husband's expectations, my then boyfriend, my then fiance, his family's expectations, my elders, my parents and my grandparents' expectations. Now, interestingly, the place I felt the most pressure wasn't from my own family, it was from my ex-husband's family. Because they were such an insular family that I felt myself shutting down. But I didn't understand it then. I felt myself closing off. And that part of me that loved to learn and develop was still there. But she moved into being the dutiful daughter-in-law, the person who went at the weekend to help out on the allotment, to be that extra pair of hands through the summer months of bringing in the harvest from the allotment, complying, conforming, squashing myself into a box that I loved learning, but it wasn't a box that I was supposed to be contained in. And this is what we do when we're pressuring our values. And we've all done this. There won't be one person in this group who can say, I've never done that. Because it's a natural part of who we are as we move from child into teen, into young adult, into accomplished adult in a relationship. And so what we have to do is we have to look back and re-find who we are through our values. And for me, that realization only came just a couple of years ago, that I'd stopped being me and that part of me never developed. It just sat there in that little box, waiting for the time when I realized I was still there to be nurtured and loved in the way I deserved to be, and not through the expectations of everyone else. So as we grow, we create a set of values that are moving us forward. And then when we come to that adult part of us and we're trying to fit in with everyone around us, we often box away some of those values that actually would serve us really, really well. And because we do that, we then start to lose parts of ourselves, lose our sense of direction, feel uncomfortable in situations because we're not the square peg trying to fit into the round hole. We're actually the round peg that's sliding around in the round hole because we haven't created a strong enough set of values to carry us and support us. And we've acquiesced and we've people pleased and all of the other things that we do to fit in with everyone else. And when I realized that, my world started to shift again quite dramatically. Because I put my foot down and I said, no, I've got to look at my values again. I've got to do that work again. And I've got to see where I'm letting myself down, where I'm letting that part of me that's so vital, where I'm letting that go. And this is what this work is about. This is why I'm bringing this to you now. And the other thing I wanted to share with you is just to show you how we use these values. And this is just an example, but actually this is something you could create for yourself if you wanted to. And the risks and the honours are actually great questions to pose for yourself. And I'm more than happy to help you with that if you need any support. But there's one more thing I wanted to show you through this. And this is just a basic core values graph. So all of those other things we saw, love, peace, resilience, compassion, family, courage, kindness, curiosity, you see how they're all coming together. They're all converging into that center point. And that center point is you, your core. So if your family is only 10%, your resilience has been pushed up to 60. Your compassion is going up. But all of these other things have really dropped down because you don't know what to do with them. 10% there, 60% there is 70. Another 20% there is 90. And maybe you've got about 10% courage. But your love is pressured, so it's been shrunk down. There's no peace because you don't know how to articulate how you're feeling about the loss of those relationships, because there will be so many people that have judged and criticized you along the way. Your kindness towards yourself isn't so kind because you feel so punished by what you're experiencing that your self-compassion, your self-kindness goes out the window, and you spend a lot of time beating yourself up. All of these things need a balance. All of these things shift balance. And it's that shift that keeps us healthy, that keeps the core strong. And that's really powerful. And when you can recognize that your family values, they're not what you want them to be right now, but you can change them. Because guess what? You are your first family member. So actually, be selfish and actually consider yourself first. Think about you as a whole unit all on your own and consider how you can support yourself to be stronger, because that is powerful and that will make a difference for you. Part of this journey of looking at values is about being selfish towards yourself, caring for yourself in a way that you've never done before, and understanding that it is not selfish to care about you. It is not selfish to put yourself first. Actually, it's a bit of a crime against everybody else around you that you want to have a relationship with. Because if you're not healthy, the energy that you're leaking that isn't so nice is what they will be feeling. And when they're feeling that, they won't want to be necessarily in your space. When these things are more balanced and you're taking more care of your own values, you will notice people will gravitate towards you and they will be more interested and more engaged. It's very powerful, and it's something we just never think about. So I really, really want you to take your time to think more about how you use your values and what values will allow you to move forward, to be happier, to be healthier. What values need more nurture and care? And part of the workbook today will be some questions along the way to help you evaluate that, to help you to craft that moving forward that you desire, but you don't know quite how. Again, the workbook will be very gentle. So just work your way through it gently and comfortably without stressing yourself. Because this is the biggest part of the journey. It is about not stressing yourself. Everything that we do is about exploring our inner selves and understanding the parts of us that need more love and support, that need more nurture, that need more care. Because those parts of who we are incredibly powerful when they're firing on all cylinders. When something exciting happens, let's say you get a raise at work, and it's not a piffling little raise, it's a big raise, and it's going to make a massive difference to how you move forward. And your heart's thumping, and your mind is racing along at a million bits a minute, and your whole body is uplifted because in that moment, the value that you are feeling, emoting, is celebration. You are celebrating you. You're throwing out the proverbial fireworks and all the other amazing things that are going on. And that energy is landing on everyone else. So they're all pleased for you too, and they're all congratulating you. And it's absolutely wonderful. And you know what? It's the same energy when we become parents. And all of a sudden there's this beautiful bundle of 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, and a little squidgy body. Or when we become grandparents and we have that same 2 arms, 2 legs, and little squidgy body. That energy we emanate is exciting and thrilling and forward moving. It's about growth. So what we want to do is we want to learn to harness that through all of the values that we have, not necessarily to the highest extremes of fireworks, but you know where I'm coming from when I say that when a value feels stronger, it feels more secure. And it always starts from that place of us first. That's really powerful stuff. Us first. So what I'd like to do today is I would like to read an audio to you that I have recorded. And that audio is all about giving you a calm, serene space to engage with yourself and connect with yourself. Because when you do that, that's when everything becomes more powerful. I'm going to read it to you today. And what I would like you to do is I would like you to get yourself comfortable in your chair or on the sofa or wherever you are at your most comfortable. You will be closing your eyes, you will be resting your body, so I want you to be where you're safe. So I'll give you a moment now to just find that safe, comfortable space. And then we will begin. So I want you to notice the space around you. Just resting your eyes on a single spot in front of you to rest your gaze on. And I'd like you to stay focused on that spot. There's nothing special about the spot. It is simply somewhere for your eyes to settle. You are here. You are safe enough in this moment. There is nothing you need to do. And now I'd like you to take a deep breath in through the nose, deep into your belly. And out through the mouth, longer and slower. In through the nose, down into the belly. And out through the mouth, longer and slower. And for a third time, in through the nose, deep into your belly. And out through the mouth, longer and slower. Now continue that pattern of breathing, and as you do, I want you to notice that your shoulders are softening, allowing your jaw to unclench, and that your gaze is becoming less focused. If and when it feels right to you, I invite you now to allow your eyes to gently close. And as your breath releases, allow your eyelids to just settle and start to come within yourself. On each out breath, I want you to invite release in all the muscles around your forehead and your eyes, your jaw, your neck, and your shoulders. I want you to just keep scanning around your body, your arms, your chest, your belly. Breathe into the areas on the inhale, and on the out breath, imagine letting go and making a little more space. And continue that journey through your hips, legs, and feet. I want to bring your attention now to a steady inner point within you. Imagine right in the middle of you, you have your own compass. Look for the center of your own compass. It's quiet and it's grounded and unmoving. This is not a place of effort. It is a place of orientation. And I want you to invite a memory, a moment when you felt most like yourself. Not perfect, not dramatic, but I want you to notice how you were being, how you felt. Because that felt sense is where your values lie, where they live comfortably within you. And I want to ask yourself inwardly now, what matters to you now? And as you say that, you're asking yourself, what matters to me now? Because it isn't the shoulds that matter, and it isn't the expectations of others that matter. And there isn't a need to act yet, because awareness comes first. I want you to gently press your finger and thumb together. It doesn't matter which hand. And as you're breathing out, I want you to silently affirm, I am allowed to choose what matters to me. And I want you to use this as an anchor so that every time you gently press your finger and thumb together, that affirmation that you have just said so clearly to yourself, I am allowed to choose what matters to me, will be reinforced. So return to that anchor whenever things feel unclear. Your unconscious mind knows you have made that commitment to yourself. So when you bring your finger and thumb together, you will feel that momentary shift of energy as your unconscious mind recognizes the anchor. Now, what I would like you to do is just to become aware of your body and the room around you. And if you're still holding on to your finger and thumb, you can let go. Just allow that sense of calm, that peace. Because this steady place is always accessible. You do not need to rush. Because your values will unfold over time through gentle honesty. And when you're ready, I'd like you to open your eyes. And as you open your eyes, I want you to stretch your arms and give your fingers a wiggle, and stretch your legs and give your toes a wiggle. And just give yourself a little shift in the chair to reorientate and bring yourself back into the room. And I hope that feels as wonderful as it did for me. And you can use that at any time of the day, but use it regularly. Use it to support, especially when you're doing your values work, because it will really help to just center your mind on the questions that you're asking yourself and the answers that you will need your unconscious mind to bring to you. It's not something you can overuse as such, but if you find that you're not responding, give yourself a break and go do something really fun. Piece of cake, fancy drink, walk in the park. Play on the amazing kit that's in the park now for exercise. Just pretend you're 6 again. Nobody's looking. Because this is all about letting your unconscious mind do the work. And that is the most powerful part of this journey. And you may notice that the things that you wrote yesterday will feel slightly differently now, because that's the integration doing its job. And you don't need to change anything from the workbook, because the next stage will show you how you've changed. And I want you really just to notice between now and the next session. Just notice the differences, how you feel about things, how you look at things, how you address things. I want you to notice when your values are speaking quietly or where they're shouting too loudly. And I want you to see what action you might want to start taking for those changes to occur. Because you're doing all of this in the right order. And something I wanted to share with you today is that at the end of this, doing all of the workbooks, listening to all of the audios, commenting, giving me your takeaways, giving me your learnings, I'd really like to say thank you to you at the end of this program for being a participant. Now, obviously, I can't gift something to everybody, but the person who is the most engaged will win a couple of short programs that I have that I'd like to share. And that takes participation. So I'd really like you now to jump into the program and really enjoy what there is to come and really embrace who you are in this process. Because I know already you've started to see change. I can see that from the comments in the group. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how you all start to grow and start to blossom and find those parts of you that you've been devaluing without realizing, so that you can embrace them and give them that place of strength and beauty that they so deserve, so that you can thrive. Thank you so much for today. I'm going to bring this to a close now, because we've all been so busy, and it's nice not to have to go, God, there's another 15 minutes to go. So I'm going to bring it to a close. I'm going to wish you all a wonderful day. And again, if there are any questions, please do come back to me. That's it for today. Take good care, everyone.